call the Planning and Development Committee meeting to order. We have 3 or 4 different
I'll see you tonight, probably. Bye-bye.
3 or 4 different points of business that we'd like to take care of regarding economic development. In our last economic development meeting, planning and development meeting, and also our last finance meeting, Cliff had brought us a proposal for $200,000 for a workforce grant, a program that we've been participating in with A&C for a while now. The fund had depleted the appropriated monies that we had, and they were asking for additional funds to keep growing. We had a lot of questions, and that's only to be expected with as many new JPs as we have on the court now. So I spoke to Cliff about it, and he's asked Dr. Jim Shimwell to come, and as a guest speaker, I'd like to offer him the opportunity to speak first before we move on into other things. So Cliff and Dr. Shimwell.
Thank y'all. I appreciate the opportunity. I would like this workforce grant that we asked for, the $200,000. We have 2 separate programs, and that's one reason I asked Dr. Shimwell to give you all a complete rundown of everything that the county is funding through the college. But the 200 is simply for straight line workforce development. For 20 years now, it's been the county's policy to pay 25% of the training cost of any Mississippi County company that sends their employees to A&C to be trained. And only A&C, if they bring in outside trainers, we don't help with that. But this is part of being a good partner. Nothing is more important today in today's economic development recruitment world than the quality of your workforce. That's why they come and that's why they leave. There are places that have not come forward to help companies train their workers. And everyone here knows, I mean, everything gets more complicated, more computerized, requires greater intellectual acuity every day. I mean, the jobs that are here at these steel mills now are not the jobs that were here 30 years ago when they came. And they constantly train and retrain their people, both Nucor and Big River Steel, as well as the pipe companies. So that 25%, generally we pay 25%. The state often pays 50%, and then the company pays 25%, plus they pay the wages of their people while they're in training. And I would put forward as proof of the effectiveness of this is that last year, in the year of the COVID, Nucor reinvested $750 million in Mississippi County. That's almost as much as they spent when they built the first mill. That's a reinvestment that will see them with us for another 20 years. And Big River Steel, in only their 6th year, reinvested $750 million with us. And then Atlas invested $150 million and doubled the size of their plant. All of those speak to the fact that they have all found Mississippi County a good partner to do their business and to get and to train their workforce. So that's the kind of the background. We're very fortunate in having A&C here. Jim went to work for the Solutions Group about the time I went to work in economic development, and he has built that, first with the support of Dr. Myers, and then since he's been president with his own initiative, into, I think, one of the premier, if not the premier, workforce delivery training systems in the United States. I mean, the college has won awards. The state looks to A&C as a constant leader in workforce training. And it's carried on through to almost every part of the college. For instance, graduates at A&C make more than graduates of almost anywhere else. They make more than graduates at U of A Federal, make more than graduates at the at Arkansas State University in Jonesboro. In fact, the medical school on Little Rock is the only place that has average starting salaries higher than the 2-year degrees at A&C. So there's a lot to be said about workforce. I mean, it's what's kept us here. It is the muscle and bone that underlies the economy of Mississippi County. In fact, it's important enough that I have been thinking about trying to maybe tweak some of our initial incentive offers. But since we do restrict the primary incentive to, based on its number of Mississippi County employees. But workforce is so important. I mean, when I talk to site consultants and companies directly, they want to know, can you provide the workforce? We see you've got all these steel mills, how are you going to, and we know what they pay, how are you going to provide the workforce? Well, the thing that eases their mind is a sum for workforce training. So I've been considering trying to, come in with a lower figure up front, or maybe a minimum figure. Say somebody's going to employ 100 people at a good salary. That might normally be a $1.5 million co-investment on our part. Well, maybe we cut that down to $500,000, but then offer them $750,000 in workforce training. Just to see if because I believe it'll actually tweak their interest more, because that's what they look at as that's the most important thing. So, are there any questions before we let Dr. Shimwell's going to give us a run? Yes, sir.
I'm the guy that kind of stirred this up, but I
Understood
did
that.
not understand the division.
Right.
I thought from our conversation that we were carrying the majority of the load, but now that you tell me that we're 25%,
Right.
the state's 50, and then the employer's 25, I feel better. The only thing is, do you have a stipulation? If these people get out and don't go to work in Mississippi County and leave, do they have to reimburse us of anything?
No, sir, because they don't do that. I mean, the people that the industry trains those are their long-term.
So they're already employed?
Yes.
Okay, so they're employed, so it would, like Nucor would send
Right.
50 people to the college and say, we want them to have
Right.
this training?
Right.
Okay, so yeah, so we're not just doing this for anybody?
No, we have a separate program, which Dr. Shimwell will cover, called the WORK program, and that's an acronym, and that is something that the state of Arkansas took great interest in, and in fact, now in the process of rolling it out across the state, a model that we created here between the county and ANC. But no, sir, those are employees. So, you can take a young 18-year-old male or female and teach them almost anything. I mean, if they're a hustling person. And so that gives the companies the confidence. Two things give them the confidence. One, that we will help them in that investment, because we're essentially investing in our own people. That's what we're investing in. And two, that the college can deliver the type of training where they actually learn what the company needs them to learn.
Yeah, I think we combine them.
I think 2 points that's kind of interesting. One, back to your point, I bet you the companies probably have something, since these people are already employed by the companies, they probably have something saying they gotta work for them for so long. Wouldn't you assume
They
before they put them in
may,
training?
but there's just very low turnover in Mississippi County. I mean, the steel mills, we check this periodically every 2 or 3 years and ask what the turnover is. And I know the first time I did it, I called Nucor and asked, what was your turnover last year? And they said, I think it was about 5. And I thought, 5%? Wow. And I said, so it was 5%? No, 5 people out of 970,
Okay.
So they don't leave, they retire. And it's the same way at most of the companies. And some of the training, and most of the training carries on. Let's say we train somebody in a metal working skill at Tenaris. Well, where are they going to go? If they go anywhere, they're going to Nucor or Big River Steel. So the state, we helped our citizen get more training, and then they got a better job at another company.
So is that priced like per program or is it broken down some way?
Right, the college has a pricing
Okay.
system, which is, I think is very fair, and to the companies and us.
That, you answered my question. My concern was the money. The only other thing is, in my profession, let's say that quote unquote gives me or pays for my medical school tuition.
Mhm.
I have to say I will give you 5 years
Right,
when I come back, or I owe the money, all the money. And of course, there's no more turnover than you got, but I just wonder if there's any way to say, hey, if you walk out here today and leave Nucor and go to Pittsburgh, Do they pay anything?
They come from Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Cost of living's a lot better down here than it is.
No, sir, I mean, that's for every restriction, every tooth you put in the clamp, it costs us something. The companies consider it intrusive. They think, well, if they don't trust their people, should we trust these people? And,
You answered my question.
Dr. Collum, honestly, you bring up a great point. The reality is it would cost us more to try to police that than we could ever save by trying to.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. To your point, I can see where that would be more of an incentive than even just cash for some of these, when we write these programs to begin with, because of the amount. I mean, giving someone X dollars for infrastructure, it's gonna cost them that same dollar figure. But like the programs are already in place at ANC, it would cost businesses more than just the dollar for dollar. I mean, being able to offer them workforce training, I could see where that would be a better incentive than just giving them.
Oh, that's
X dollar.
true. I mean, take Nucor. I mean, they've bought up thousands of acres around those two plants. And their long-term goal, which they've stated, is to bring in customers for their steel on every one of those acres. Now, one of the things that has enabled them to have confidence that they can bring those customers in and then get a workforce at those customers is the training that they can get at ANC. And I think that, economic development dollars for us to invest 200 to 400 a year in that as part of the economic development effort is justifiable.
Now, one thing I would like to know more about the actual programs, and I know I'm gonna say what, and this is gonna benefit Molly, but we've talked about it. Is it all industry training? Are we not training any kind of employees for anything else other than the industry? Because I know that we've had several other businesses that have come here before, from hospitality to retail or whatever, that have said the reason they didn't come here was because of an untrained workforce. And it doesn't require a lot of training for that hospitality or customer service type training. I mean, are there any programs like that existing currently now to train that type of employees?
I think that's what I just read about in the paper, wasn't it? Did you receive something from the state? You're doing a pilot program or a test program to train people out in the field? Is that something different?
It's something different.
Okay.
Does that make my presentation?
Yes.
This point? Thank you, Mr. Chitwood. He's actually given part of my presentation, which I appreciate because my back's acting up and I'm gonna have to go in and see Dr. Collum next week. Let me pass these around. I appreciate this opportunity and I'll try to be relatively brief with this because I do respect your time. Let me give you some general information first, and I've heard some specific questions that I want to answer. One thing that Mr. Chitwood said that was not exactly right, when I came to work at the college in 1994, there wasn't a solutions group. This was a line item in my job description. It was a vision that Dr. Myers had to build something like this. And my initial team of people I hired and we sat in a room and named it, and I drew the logo. That's my history at the college. I was hired to coordinate the Osceola Center, but this was really what they hired me to do, is to try to build this. And with the help of a lot of great people, we did. We launched this 25 years ago. This is our 25th anniversary, the Solutions Group. And what we do in the Solutions Group, and have for the last 25 years, is we employ people who have experience in industry. It's great if they have the academic credentials too, but that's not what we're really hiring them for with this. We're hiring them to train people. And so, for instance, currently we have a mechanical engineer, an electrical engineer, a metallurgical engineer, a master welder, a person who trains in a variety of safety fields, someone who trains Six Sigma and different quality things. And what we have done all these years is we don't charge for this a tuition price. It's operated differently from the rest of the college. We charge companies per hour. And so the companies then get to send as many people as they want, or as few as they want. And that's kind of a big deal, because colleges across the country historically, the thing we would hear in college, well, we've got to get enough to make the class. We don't have enough people to make the class. And that's because they're charging per head. We charge per hour. And it's gonna be the same to the company, whether they have 20 people or 2 people. And you know what? Companies are glad for that, because it costs them so much more to pay travel and lodging, to send them somewhere for a week or 2, or to bring in an expensive vendor here. We can do it so much more cost effectively. And so this model has worked, I would say, amazingly well for 25 years. For nearly 20 of those years, we have been Arkansas's biggest provider of custom training to companies in Arkansas. The booklet I gave you talks a little bit about the things we do. And in some cases, these are programs we've done before, and it's pretty easy to pull these off the shelf. But what we really offer to companies that's valuable is we customize it. If you come in and say, we want this kind of training, hence the name, we find a solution for you. If we don't have someone on our payroll that does this, we go out and find that person and bring them in to do it. It extends to, I'll give you an extreme example. With Big River Steel, not only do we do the training, all the training to get them up and commissioned and set a world record in steel production the first month, we manage their hiring process for them. Now, let me be specific. We didn't make any hiring decisions. That's how you get yourself sued as a state agency. But we use blind screens. All of the applications went through our website. We went out and did job fairs to collect applicants for them. And then they did give us a few blind screens. And what I mean by blind screens are yes or no questions. Do you have a high school diploma? Yes or no. Do you have 3 years industry experience? Yes or no. And in that way, we can reduce that field down so then the company can make their decisions. And so that's kind of a turnkey operation where we did everything for Big River Steel, from taking the applications to getting the workforce trained for them. The things that we do show some of the disciplines that we offer with our trainers. The 2 loose sheets in there, Mr. Chitwood made reference to those, and I want to take a moment to speak to those. My favorite piece of legislation ever passed in the state of Arkansas was Act 852 of 2015, because what that required was a report to be produced every year called the Economic Security Report. And what this report shows, and there have been 5 years of them now, for every college program at every college and university in Arkansas, it will tell you what do students earn full-time wages first year out of college. And it's not a survey where people are telling you what they want you to think they make. They're matching up paycheck data with Social Security numbers. So it's the real deal. 5 years of this. Each one of these 5 years, it's the same thing. A&C not only has the highest associate degree average in the state of Arkansas, but Mr. Chitwood's right. Our associate degree average bests every bachelor degree average of every public university in the state. You can see the second page there has that information right in front of you. It shows the most latest data, the 2020 data, and you see that our associate degree average, and this is across all of our associate degrees, not just cherry picking the ones that pay the most. This is for all of them. You can see they're coming out of college averaging $51,000 the first year. Look at these universities and their bachelor's degrees. Now, my university colleagues would tell me, well, now, over time, that's going to change. Well, maybe. It depends on what you major in. You know, if you major in something that requires some math proficiency, like engineering or accounting or medicine, then yeah, you're right. They're gonna pass our graduates over time. If they don't, then no, they'll never pass our graduates. What's unique this year that happened for the first time, and I'm very proud of it, is our technical certificate average. These are 1-year programs, 1 year or less. That average beats every bachelor's degree average in the state. We prepare our students for success when they leave. That's what really we've tried to make our hallmark. It didn't start with me. My predecessors did this. I've tried to put it on steroids, as you can see. I'm very out front about bragging on our college. We do have the best college in the country. We have the best college in the country, and what I would give you as part of my evidence is this book that was written. You know, they have a college at Penn State on workforce development, like a college of business or a college of medicine. I didn't realize they had that. But at Penn State, they've got a college of workforce development. Some professors there wanted to write a book about what are the most innovative trends and things happening in workforce development. And so they went to our national association and said, where are these places? We want to interview these people. And our national association sent them to your college here at A&C. When they had their national association had their annual conference 2 years ago, this was the subject of their pre-conference. They had the biggest pre-conference registration they'd ever had. And they asked 3 of the, what they call us thought leaders, that's probably the coolest title I've ever had, to come to this conference. I was one of the 3 representing your college. Our national association recognizes A&C. 5 years ago, they paid to bring in 16 representatives from other colleges from coast to coast to come to Blytheville, Arkansas, and learn what we're doing at A&C, particularly working with people that are unprivileged, under-resourced. We're known for that nationwide. We have 4 grants right now that are beta grants, and what I mean by those is these are new ideas, innovative ideas, and they want to take them somewhere where maybe somebody can make them work. They bring those things to A&C because we have a history doing that. So to answer some of the specific questions you've asked, we do charge by the hour as opposed to by the head in most situations. And again, companies like that. It makes anything doable for them. We also, you asked, do we train in things other than manufacturing? Absolutely. Give you a great example there is with our local hospital. We have a partnership with Great River Hospital, or Great River Regional Medical, where they're funding one of our instructors, a lady named Kyra Langley from Kaiser, and she does all of their training except for the highly technical stuff that's beyond her capacity. Then anything nursing related, she does all of that training for them. And then with some of her spare time, and they realize that she has some spare time, then she helps in the nursing programs kind of as a utility hitter, you know, in clinicals and things like that. So yes, we partner with them. You know, could we do something for any business here? Well, absolutely. Now, it's where there are some limitations, like with the state programs, that 50%, normally that does have to be a manufacturing or process related. They don't pay for every industry. But I mean, do we have the capacity to do that? Absolutely. We've worked, I'll give you some recent examples. I'm trying to remember which bank, Southern Bank Corp. I think we're engaged right now with some customer service training for them, and some teamwork training. So that's why we were created. We don't charge enough to cover our costs. We don't make a profit out of this. We don't intend to. We're a public institution, and our goal is to advance Mississippi County. So what we try to do is we end up covering about 2/3 of it, and then the college subsidizes the rest. And what I will say for my predecessors, and I guess for me too, unless something is delivered for college credit, the state does not give us one thin dime to do this. And that's a shame. That ought to change because Arkansas needs a lot more of this. So we trim money out of other places in our budget to make this work because we've seen it work in Mississippi County with these companies. Cliff's right. You've got to have a trained workforce. And when companies look somewhere, and I know this from being an economic developer, 100 years ago down in Osceola, that's what they're looking for, is not just the workforce. Nobody's got a whole pipeline of people ready to go to work. That's not existing anywhere unless a plant just shut down. What they're looking for is that capacity, that you can do that. And we've proven that for 25 years. The work program, Mr. Chitwood mentioned, that is indeed an acronym. It stands for Workforce Orientation and Retraining Keys. What that is for people who have a no work history or a bad work history. It's a chance to start over. And it's a 6-week program. It doesn't meet every day for 6 weeks. It's only 60 hours worth, but we stagger those out. Why do we do that? Because there's an attendance requirement. You can be late or miss once and then you're out. And so we stagger it on purpose. You might be able to use rubber bands and toothpaste to hold things together for a couple weeks and get through a program. If you've got problems with transportation or problems with childcare or other issues, you're going to have a harder time doing that over 6 weeks. And we want to reveal that before you go to work somewhere. And we want to try to work with you, and we have people that do that, and try to resolve those issues so that you don't go to work somewhere and then you have an absenteeism problem and you get fired. We teach just basic workplace readiness in the work program. And we have a good success rate with it. We've, I think, now put over 400 people through that. And over 50% of them, and keep in mind who our audience is here, people with no work history or bad work history, over 50% of them are still working today. And the number goes up to 2/3 if you add in the people who got exposure to the college and got over some of their intimidation of the college, and now they're continuing their education to get more skills and be able to have a wider range of job possibilities. So that program's worked well for us. That one is one where we're not charging companies. That's one where the county has directly assisted us to provide that training, and then the companies here locally hire people from that program. Normally when we put the word out that we've got a work class coming up, most of those people are hired before the class is over because they're that anxious to get the labor. One other program I would mention quickly, because we're really excited about it, it's brand new, and it's one of these beta projects I've talked about, beta grants. And this one's a pet project of Asa Hutchinson. We've started a program called Career Connect. And what Career Connect is, it's similar to things that we've done through the Great River Economic Development. It's a wage reimbursement program. And what I really like about this one is it's not specific to a particular sector or a particular company. And what it is if one of our students who's eligible for Career Connect, and basically there's an income eligibility, we're looking for, again, for lower income students that have a dependent child in the home. That's what makes you eligible. And you can come out of any program we have, whether it's credit or non-credit. You can come out of adult education. You go to work for a company. Let's say they go to work for Mailboxes Beyond. Let's say they go to work for Collum Clinic. Let's say they go to work for the Houseworths. Up to $15, they're going to reimburse their wages 100% for the first month. And then months 2 through 6, they'll reimburse you 50% of their wages. And if you keep them for a year, they'll give you the other 50% of months 2 through 6. So it gives employers an incentive to take a chance on someone they might normally might not take a chance on, because they're helping to cover that labor cost. This is a great program, and we've got a lot of students that are about to come out of the pipe here the next couple of weeks. Becky Brister, who used to work at Tenaris, works for us now, and she's our Career Connect coordinator. If you know businesses, if you have a business that's interested, talk to her. Let's get an agreement signed. You know what, there's some paperwork that's with it, but we do most of the paperwork for you. You know, Cliff didn't mention these grants from the state. We do these grants for these companies and provide that. Basically, all they do is fill in a couple of blanks and sign it. You know, that's the part that the college is subsidizing is we try to provide this service for our companies, because it's all about economic development. I'm kind of like a jukebox, and you know, if you get me going on this stuff, it may play forever. So I'll stop at this point and take questions.
I have a question. What do you
Sir.
see as far as for expansion in the two? You say a lot of these areas open for, how can, you and Cliff have been working very well together. How can we work better together to even expand this more? And you picking up about helping Molly out and just going beyond maybe some other type of industries we can attract through the training that can be provided?
Well, good question. You know, that's a great question, Justice McDonald. What I would say is what we really ought to do is let's look at what common skills might be across industries. You know, what things in the hospitality industry might be similar, you know, to a retail setting or a service setting. My guess is there are a lot of these things we're doing in the work program right now that would fit
That'd
for
be
you.
interesting to find out. I'd love to see what some of that curriculum and some of that stuff is. There was a program that it was part of Arkansas tourism, I think, at one time, that was a customer service program, and I actually was really trying to bring that in through with the chamber, and we were working on that, and then the state pulled the program, and the person that was over, so we lost the curriculum, you know. I mean, that's where the college, I think, could really be helpful, is you could probably find volunteers or whatever to teach this stuff, or even in the businesses, but I don't have the resources to create the curriculum for my level, but the college has the resources to create that curriculum that can be used all over the county for businesses.
Absolutely.
Good to
Other
hear
questions?
this.
Great question.
Thank you for coming.
My back thanks you for a few questions. Thank you.
Very
See
nice
you next week.
presentation.
I'll tell you what, if I said I'll do it.
So while we're on this $200,000 appropriation request for the workforce, while this is P&D committee, we've got the majority of the finance committee. Would y'all be opposed to going ahead and presenting this appropriation ordinance at next Tuesday meeting?
I propose, make a motion.
Or on finance, yes,
Yeah.
I'll second, yeah.
Okay, so then if it's okay, we'll go ahead and move it both from finance and P&D as a recommendation to the full court that we appropriate this $200,000 to the workforce program as requested. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Jacob, you hear that? Cliff,
Are we good on precision steel? Were there any
are we good on what?
precision steel? That was another recommendation.
No,
Okay.
that was the next.
Okay.
Go ahead, tell us.
Well, Precision Steel is a small company. My board voted in favor of helping him with about a $50,000 incentive, which would be used to purchase capital equipment. He has a financial arrangement with Farmers Bank where they made him a loan to get into business. Mr. Scott believes in him, and he's already got good contracts with several of the large steel producing companies and pipe companies. And there again, while we have difficulty getting, we're never going to get 100% of the employees at Nucor or Big River. Those companies just pay too much. People are willing to come in from vast distances, and I've all noticed that all the trailer parks are full of $100,000 campers and RVs, and those are the guys working in these places. And, we have about a little over a third at Big River Steel, and now Nucor is hiring at a rate of about a third, with about 26 to 7% Mississippi County people. But the people that support those, the pipe fitters, the people like Bronco and many of the others, D&L, companies we've helped, for 2 decades, they're 100% Mississippi County employees. And so those are where we get the jobs for our people. And this is just another one of those. He's agreed to hire 5 people within 2 years and a wage scale of $15 to $18 an hour. So I would urge the committee to approve that co-investment.
Does it meet our state economic guidelines?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
There's a rule, there was a court ruling that any company that does something for a manufacturing company, which if not done, they would have to do themselves, is part of that manufacturing unit.
So that $50,000 appropriation is assuming $10,000 per employee? Is that where that
Yes,
comes
ma'am.
from?
Questions, committee? Motion?
Motion to approve accept the, whatever, send it to wherever it next it needs to go.
Second.
Got a motion and a second that we approve the $50,000 appropriation for Precision Steel. Any other discussion or questions? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thanks, sir.
So they got our appropriations.
Okay.
You want to talk about the big elephant?
Pardon?
You want to talk about the big elephant? The election.
Oh, well,
I would consider that the big elephant today.
okay. Well, I've always considered it to be a rather large beast myself. As most of you know, this tax, it's a half-cent economic development tax. We have, and I'm sure most of you all have heard these figures. You've heard them from me, and if not, you'll probably hear them again. But we have co-invested a little over $40 million since that tax was passed in 2003. That 40 million plus of investment has brought in over 300 million of co-investment from the state of Arkansas and the federal government. And that has brought in almost $5 billion worth of capital investment from private enterprise and created over 4,000 jobs, of which 3,800 are still in existence. And those 3,800 jobs are pouring into Mississippi County a payroll of a little over $130 million a year. So that means we've invested about $3.1 million a year, and in exchange, our people are receiving payroll of $130 million a year. That's a 4,000% return on investment. I mean, it's literally quite astounding, and the more frightening thing is, where would we be without that? I drove to Natchez, Mississippi last week, and driving through Highway 61 through Mississippi, if you're feeling a little bit glum about Blyville and Osceola, that's the cure. You'll come back feeling, well, we're doing pretty well here. So it's Brad Harrison is serving as there's a beneficial political action committee for him. It's Jobs for Mississippi County. Brad Harrison is the chairman, Kenny Noble is the treasurer. We've received our filing papers from the Secretary of State. The board has been fairly successful in campaign commitments, financial commitments to run the campaign, and we're hopeful that with the correct type of campaign and the support of this court, which the economic development has always had, that the people will once again vote to continue this effort.
So last month, we passed a resolution from this court in support of the activities, both of Greta and Jobs for Mississippi County
Yes.
committees. And that was just a resolution of support. But
Right.
what these two groups are coming and asking for now is actually for us to pass an ordinance setting an election deadline or date.
Right, the second Tuesday in August is what we would request.
So that's really where this was circling around to.
Oh, okay.
Right, which is a special election, which, I mean, right, is that correct?
Correct. This
And
would be a
so-
special election the second Tuesday in August.
And a special election costs the county what, 20,000, 30,000?
Not really, more like 10 to 15, 11, something like that. Isn't that right, Janice?
I have no idea.
It's a lot
I
less than I
paid
thought it
that
was.
Yeah,
much.
it's not that bad.
If we can get the ballot right.
We'll get it right the first time. Yeah. Okay, I was thinking it was more than that.
It's not terrible. It's usually in the $10,000 range, if I'm not mistaken. And that second Tuesday would be August the 10th.
Yes, sir.
Is that not correct?
Yes, sir.
Guys, now's the time to ask you questions about special election or the economic development effort that we're looking at.
It has always been passed. I mean, there were two previous special elections in which the tax was passed. It only cleared by 65 votes on the first one, but it cleared by almost 650 votes on the second one. So I do think people can see the facts. And I would go so far, I mean, based on my experience in working now for you and the people for 23 years, there hasn't been a project come to Mississippi County since 2001 that we did not co-invest with, not a single one. And I would even submit that every one of us here who has a job, if this economic development effort had not gone forward, we would all either be retired or living somewhere else. And there would be no one under 55 living in Mississippi County because there would be no jobs for them to do. I mean, if you sell insurance or automobiles or whatever you do, you have to have a base population out there making good wages at a base industry. For decades, agriculture was that industry, but it hasn't been in decades. It's been manufacturing. It first liked manufacturing with the textile mills and the assembly plants here in Blyville, but now they've all gone. So, but we've done an excellent job with your support, the people's support, of replacing those with heavy industry.
Did you say that Greta is gonna earmark some funds for marketing to get the
No,
tax
not Greta.
passed?
We
or-
can't, the Greta Foundation can't be in,
Okay.
because we
Right,
pay
that's right. I
government
missed what you
money.
were, okay, that's.
So
that's
it's,
what I was
the campaign committee, which
Okay.
Mr. Harrison is a process of putting together.
Okay, thank you. That
They will
covers
have
that.
control of the funds.
Okay.
We had to do the same thing with the courthouse renovation.
Right,
project.
that's
We
why
had
I
a
was
special
confused.
meeting.
I missed that when
Right.
you said Brad. It just, okay.
Right.
He's creating a separate,
Yes.
okay.
Mom.
Makes sense.
I will mention one thing, and just to kind of echo what Mr. Chitwood is saying. The business, the hospitality business I'm in here in Mississippi County, we pay an additional 2% tourism tax to the state. And so it's easy for, to see, and of that 2% tourism tax, 90% of it comes from a lodging industry. And over the last 10 years in Mississippi County, that tax has increased by 113%. So you can't really say, we really haven't gotten any tourism in Mississippi County to speak of. So you really have to think that growth is from the economic, from the industrial development. It's from corporate travel coming to Mississippi County and staying in the lodging. RV rentals also pay the 2% tax. So when they did a 10-year study on it, Mississippi County, I think, was number 3 in the state for growth in this tax. Total revenue for the tax were number 11. So most of the time it's pretty hard to see like the ancillary effects of a tax to trickle down into to a different business. But I think that's proof positive how much how much the economic development has helped not only industrial development, but also other businesses as well, mine being one of them. So I would, and that doesn't, that's not including all the other, retail and anything else that's out there.
Well, I question, well, not really a question, statement, pretty much. So, going forward with this tax, are we looking to expand, actually to do more research, to actually bring in more industries?
Yes, sir.
Saying
We're
this
working
passed.
projects right now.
Okay, and another thing, it's 11 of us, y'all, and this affects 11 elected officials sitting at this table. And they're talking about, what about the campaign committee as far as you have 11 successful people who've actually campaigned throughout Mississippi County and won elections.
Oh, we intend to ask everyone for help.
I would very much hope so.
That's right.
I would very much hope so.
This is not going to be an exclusive fraternity.
I hope not. So.
Guys, do we have a motion to set this election date, special election date for the possible renewal of the economic development tax?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion, guys?
One of the things, since Mr. Chitwood is here, one of the things I would like to just ask you is, I know when we're talking about like economic development and stuff, and I know we've mentioned it a lot here in a lot of our meetings, and I know you go out and look at a lot of like the industrial, I'm picking up my kid, sorry. But what about like, when you go out and you're looking for companies to come to Mississippi County, what about on the retail side? Or, we've discussed it many times. Some of the things I'd like to ask you is, how do you find these companies? And is it just you're going to like seminars, and are they just for industrial and, or is it like like the retail stuff too, to bring something here for?
We have been active with the help of the Quorum Court about 6 years, was it 6 or 7 years ago, Tamika, that we had the study done on retail?
Oh, the books that say?
Yes.
Yes, probably almost, 8 years ago.
Right. Well, the court, we came to the court and asked for, I can't remember if it was $30,000 or $40,000 to commission the Buxton Company, which specializes in retail, matching retail opportunities with communities. And they did a study for both Blytheville and Osceola. At that point, based on pre-existing agreements with the Chamber of Commerce of Blytheville and the Osceola Chamber of Commerce, we turned those results over to those two chambers to pursue those. And I know they both did. I don't know how much actual success came from them. The basic difficulty in incentivizing retail, let's just take retail versus manufacturing. If you incentivize a manufacturing plant that comes in and hires 100 people, they buy land, they build a building, we train their people, they go to work. They're going to be there. I mean, that's a long-term commitment. But if you help Jim's hamburger stand go into business, and Jim doesn't make a good hamburger, or there just aren't enough people in the area that want to buy hamburgers, nothing you can do can keep him in business. So that's why the state doesn't help retail, and that's why they prohibit us from helping retail. It's not, you know, agriculture was a core industry. Manufacturing is a core industry. Tourism is actually a core industry as well. But retail, you know, not so much. Who would have ever thought Dillard's would just go kapoof, you know, which is what's happened to them. Things change, you know, I mean, so now training
It's
retail.
been here for a long time too, and some of these industrial-like companies, manufacturing companies have also been here for 20 years and have closed their doors
That's
too.
right.
So you never know how long a company's here, but my thing is like, maybe there should be some stipulation of like a certain amount of employees they've got employed. I'm looking at like the bigger picture when I say retail, or even, I know we've mentioned like, help me with the word that I'm looking for is,
Manufacturing is a core industry. Tourism is actually a core industry as well. But retail, you know, not so much. Who would have ever thought Dillard's would just go kapoof, you know, which is what's happened to them. Things change, you know, I mean, so now training
It's
retail.
been here for a long time too, and some of these industrial-like companies, manufacturing companies have also been here for 20 years and have closed their doors
That's
too.
right.
So you never know how long a company's here, but my thing is like, maybe there should be some stipulation of like a certain amount of employees they've got employed. I'm looking at like the bigger picture when I say retail, or even, I know we've mentioned like, help me with the word that I'm looking for is,
Quality of life.
quality of
Yeah,
life.
you're
Thank you.
talking more of like an economic community.
Yes, something of that sort. I think we need to start focusing on bringing things like that here to Mississippi County as well.
Well, I agree, you know, and Justice White and I have talked about this, and I think when y'all look at your balances in your general fund, those are going up. And I think that they're going up because of the success you've had in economic development. The property tax is climbed, it's quadruple what it was a few years ago, and the county gets a large share of that. So if you look at it like economic development money is the seed corn, and the crop is in the general revenue, and you can do pretty much as you choose with that general revenue. I don't think there's very few restrictions on that, as far as helping the communities or doing anything else. And I'm not opposed, personally, I work for you, I'm not opposed to anything the court wants to do. It's just, I've always been told to give the court warning based on the things that I've been told by, and you know, we had Mr. Russell come and visit, and I thought, you know, he did a fairly good job of explaining what some of the pitfalls are if we stray from the beaten path. But if y'all want to stray from the beaten path, I'll go with you. I mean,
No, I've just seen that we get the industrial goods, I get it, and they bring a lot of money to the county, I totally understand that, but I'm saying is the people don't tend to stay in Mississippi County because they don't have any quality of life for their kids and all that, and they all go to Jones, and they'll travel to come here. So yes, we are getting in revenue from the industrial, from their property taxes, but I'm talking about to keep the people here in Mississippi County. We need to bring things here that will keep these employees that work at these industries, instead of traveling 60 miles to Jonesboro, Memphis. We need to find something in Mississippi County for them to attract them to come to stay here, to live here. That's the biggest thing. I mean, that's my.
I agree. I mean, I'm not, you know.
Just appears that we're gonna have to find an alternative revenue source outside of the economic development tax to fund a project.
Well, we'll have
of
to
that
decide
nature.
what the project is.
Well, that's exactly, I think we have to find the ask first,
Yeah.
you know, exactly what we could, you know, what we're talking about. I mean, we keep saying quality of life, but, I mean, that could be a million different things. So I think once we come up with the ask, then we might be able to figure out how to
Is
put
there
it
like,
in the,
like, how do you attract the industrial? Like, where do you go to look for these companies? Where do you, I mean, is it
Well,
like?
that changes over time. When I first started, we went to trade shows. And I would go to 5 or 6 or 7 trade shows a year. In Chicago, New York City, Dallas, Columbus, Ohio, I mean, everywhere. To sell that site that Big River sits on, and we went to Germany twice, London, you know, I mean, we presented it all over the world. And today, there is a steel site sitting there. That approach does work. That's exactly how Tupelo got a car plant. They went out and found a site, just like we did with the steel site, and they took it to Madrid the very first year. Everybody laughed at them. Oh, the big days of the car companies expanding are over, fellas. Y'all just missed it. Besides, Mississippi's already got one. You want 2? This is Mississippi. You're never going to get 2. But they had done their due diligence. They had the site planned. They knew what it was going to cost. They had a pro-economic development governor in Haley Barbour. And today there's a car plant. And they laughed at us the same way when we showed up in Germany. You'll never get a steel. There won't be another steel plant in the United States from now until roughly 100 years before the end of time. But we had done our homework. We had the site. We knew it was a perfect steel site. And today, there's a steel company there.
So is there trade shows on the opposite?
Well,
of
then the
other
trade
side?
show thing coming out.
I mean, is
you
there,
know.
that's what I'm saying, is there
Yeah.
trade shows similar to that on the other side of not industrial, but to attract other?
We have a list of site consultants. We stay in contact with them by email. Most of them are aware that Mississippi County is highly aggressive when it comes to incentives. That if it's a project that fits us, and not every project fits us. I mean, I worked for years when I first started this. Of course, I worked just for the air base. And I went all over trying to get a call center in some of those buildings. But I never was able to attract anyone. Now, call centers have kind of come and gone because that business transferred to India, which is the largest English-speaking country in the world. And we couldn't compete. Yes, I mean, not every project, you know, I mean, the areas that the state will help with are corporate headquarters, research labs, call centers, manufacturing, and there's something else that I don't think has ever come to our console. But of those, you know, a research center is probably not going to be a natural fit for Mississippi County. Corporate headquarters, maybe if, hopefully when Dedrick Davis is the largest pickle manufacturer in the United States, his headquarters will still be here.
well, if I may just interject real quick. One thing, you know, I always, when I talk to people about retail and retail businesses and restaurants and even hospitality is, you know, they look at our workforce and they look at, you know, who are they going to employ? And so our next thought may be to look, my doctor can and continuing to educate, you know, our workforce. That, I would say that's probably, if not the number 1, it's probably for sure number 2. So.
Guys, we've got a motion and a second on the floor. I'm not cutting
No, I'm
y'all
finished.
short,
I'm
but we
done.
do have a little business I'd like to finish up with. All we're doing is we have a motion to set a special election date of August the 10th for the renewal of the economic, 1.5 cent economic development tax. On call for a vote, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Then we will have an ordinance to present, and it will be an ordinance. We'll have an ordinance to present, calling for a special election. Jacob, we might need to work with, we need to work with Shep to draw up that ordinance calling for the special
I
election?
have that. I'll send it to
No,
Jim.
I think I had
Okay.
the last
You got
one.
it.
I have the last one, and I can just change
It's
the
exactly
more or
the
less the
same,
same.
yeah.
person.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we know what we're doing is,
Right.
okay, cool. Do you have any other business you need us to attend to?
No, sir.
Are you
Thank very
sure?
much.
That was only 3 things, seemed like we had 4. Kelly, do we have anything else to do? Cindy? On y'all's quality of life deal, just one thought. We've got committees that take care of this, committees that take care of that. It doesn't have to be a quorum court committee, but maybe it could be a quorum court committee, or just a group of citizens that get together to have a quality of life initiative and push. We could take an already formed committee such as the efficiency committee, the social services committee, or we could ask the judge to form a new committee to explore the quality of life issue, to identify exactly what you're talking about. And then, once we identify what we would like to see in quality of life, then move forward in coming up with answers to address those potential issues. So I'm not dismissing quality of life at all. I think it's very important for us. I just don't think it's a part of this. But I think we need to move forward and maybe moving forward with either a new committee or transitioning an existing committee into working on that. I think that's very important to all of us. So, with that said, if no other economic development business before the Planning and Development Committee, going dismissed. Thank you very much.